Welcome into Tailgate Thursday for week number 6 of the 2024 college football season. My name is David Morrison from the Vol Society, here to preview the upcoming college football games this weekend, featuring the Vols, the SEC, and games across the nation. We begin with our beloved Tennessee Volunteers off a bye week and back in action. Number 4 in the country, 4-0 on the year, and they head on the road for the second time in 3 weeks. They head to Fayetteville to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks, who are 3-2 on the year. This will be a 7:30 Eastern Time kickoff on ABC. Tennessee, as I mentioned, coming off the bye with the win over Oklahoma. Now they got to head to Fayetteville to take on Arkansas, a place that Tennessee has not won at since 2007. Meanwhile, for the Hogs, suffered a loss to A&M last week in the Southwest Classic at Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas. 21-17 was the final score. Jaquinta Jackson, talented running back for Arkansas, already with 500 yards rushing on the year. The quarterback, Taylon Green, solid so far on the year with over 1,000 yards, but the two struggles he has is completion percentage at 50% and already with 5 interceptions. So can Tennessee's defense shut down Bobby Petrino's offense? Of course, Sam Pittman, the head coach for Arkansas. Can they shut down this team, or can Arkansas pull a huge top 5 home win upset? We shall find out Saturday night. All right, let's go across the SEC really quick here. Number 9, Missouri, undefeated at 4-0 on the year, taking on number 25, Texas A&M, 4-1 on the season. This is a noon game on ABC. The last time we saw Missouri play was back on September 21st in the double overtime victory over Vanderbilt, 30-27. That felt like that was 2 months ago at this point, with everything kind of happening with college football. But anyways, it's going to be a tough road game here for Missouri. Texas A&M, fresh off the win against Arkansas. Kyle Field's a tough place to play. Can Missouri continue their undefeated season? I mean, they have slipped in the polls. Now, they did bounce up this week, but they had dropped. They were a top, flirting at I think they were like number 6 at one point, but then they have slipped due to kind of a underwhelming performance against Boston College, although Boston College was ranked at the time when they played them, and then the Vanderbilt game really dropped them, but they have bounced back into the top 10. But it's going to be a tough game for the Mizzou Tigers, but we shall see what happens as Mizzou and A&M meets Saturday. 3:30 ABC. Go between the hedges. Number 5, Georgia, coming off the loss to Alabama last week in one of the wildest games in college football history. But now they come back home and take on the Auburn Tigers in the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Man, you talk about two teams that, both coming off losses. I think Auburn's was more depleting than Georgia's. I mean, Auburn had Oklahoma at the end right there, and then Peyton Thorne throws that pick six late in the game, and then Oklahoma ends up picking up the win on the road. Still can't figure out the quarterback situation with Peyton Thorne, and of course Hank Brown wasn't much better when they put Arkansas. So, where does Hugh Freeze go from here? And I don't want to say hot seat talk, but it's definitely not smooth sailing for him. Meanwhile, for Georgia, like I said, still one of the top teams in the nation despite the loss to Alabama. They do come back home and take on an old-time foe, and could be a blowout, but we shall see as Auburn takes on Georgia. 3:30 on ESPN, a sneaky game in the SEC, in my opinion. Number 12, Ole Miss, coming off a shocking loss to Kentucky at home. They got to go to South Carolina, and South Carolina's 3-1 on the year. South Carolina has played some pretty big games so far. You remember they pulled the blowout win in week 2 against Kentucky at their place, and then they end up having that disappointing loss to LSU. They have made a switch to quarterback. They went from Lenore Sellers to former Auburn quarterback Robbie Ashford. It seems like that team is clicking and gelling a lot better. This could be an intriguing game. Lane Kiffin obviously needs to get this win, but, so does Shane Beamer in a way. I think this is going to be a sneaky game. I think this game is going to be a better watch, in my opinion, than Auburn and Georgia. But, we have to preview both of those games since they're SEC games. But definitely keep an eye on this game Saturday between the Rebels and the Gamecocks. 4:15 on the SEC Network. We head to the Music City, the state capital of Tennessee, Nashville. Number 1, Alabama, undefeated at 4-0. Coming off the emotional win over Georgia. Ryan Williams went off in that game, had two of probably the craziest plays you'll ever see in college football. And now this Crimson Tide team, red hot with Caleb DeBoer, taking on a Vanderbilt team, 2-2 on the year. I think they had a bye last week themselves. I'm not expecting much of this game. You're going to see a lot of crimson and white in the stands at First Bank Stadium in Nashville. You'll probably see some Vanderbilt fans there, but it's going to be a lot of Alabama fans there in this game. I'm not expecting much from this. I think Alabama goes to 5-0. Although this Vanderbilt team, in a way, is a lot better. They're not the punching bag Vanderbilt team that we've seen in the past. I mean, I think Clark Lee has done a nice job assembling a nice staff. Jerry Kill, Tim Beck. So while I'm not expecting this to be a close game, I think, maybe the first quarter could be a little bit interesting, but I think Alabama rolls at the end. But there you go. Alabama, Vanderbilt, 4:15 SEC Network. All right, 7:45 on the SEC Network. A battle in the Sunshine State. Gus Malzahn's UCF Knights going to the Swamp to take on the 2-2 Florida Gators. UCF coming off a loss to Colorado last week at home, 48-21, a game that they thought they had. But Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter went off for the Buffs. But, for UCF, KJ Jefferson's going to have to be the big key factor. Had a great game against TCU, but then ended up falling flat against UCF. Meanwhile, for Florida, it's Billy Napier watch alert game, obviously. Again, Florida's coming off their first bye. And this really starts their stretch of their tough SEC schedule along the way. So we'll see what happens between these two teams from the Sunshine State. All right, let's go across the nation. We got a lot of games across the nation, some intriguing ones. We'll kind of highlight them really quick here. Friday night on FS1 at 9 o'clock, we head to Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas as the undefeated UNLV Rebels, led by former Missouri head coach Barry Odom, they welcome in a team for the ACC, the Syracuse Orange. UNLV been in the news lately with the whole Mike Saluka controversy of NIL money and all that, and they've had another player that's redshirting or maybe leaving the team, hitting the transfer portal. So, just a unfortunate timing with this team, especially with an undefeated season, a team that's very exciting, and now you're taking on a 3-1 Syracuse team, led by Kyle McCord, former Ohio State quarterback. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, UNLV coming off a win 59-14. That was over Fresno State, one of the better teams in the Mountain West Conference, and that was the first game without Saluka. It's going to be a very interesting game, kind of a late game. It'll be a lot of fun to watch on a Friday night. All right, now let's go to some of the Saturday games. We're going to hit these really quick here. A game in the ACC. This is a conference game. 4-1 SMU heading to Cardinal Stadium to take on number 22 Louisville. This is a noon game on ESPN. SMU coming off a big-time home win, I guess, to their standards at this point. 42-16 win over Florida State. I know we've talked about Florida State and, just the miserable season they've had. But, for SMU standards, this is a huge program win for them. Now they got another one as they take on Louisville, coming off a loss to Notre Dame on the road, 31-24. Got two interesting quarterbacks, Kevin Jennings for the Mustangs and Tyler Schlaut for Louisville. We'll see what happens in this game. I think it'll be a fun game, probably a high-scoring game. Can SMU win the ACC or at least be the team that can challenge Miami for the ACC championship? We shall find out. All right, 3:30 on CBS. A very heavy Big Ten week, I would say, although a couple of these teams are, Pac-12 teams that now are in the Big Ten. We might as well just call this the Rose Bowl Conference at this point. But this is an old school Big Ten matchup. Iowa taking on number 4 Ohio State. The top defense in the Big Ten against the top offense in the Big Ten. Iowa's defense averaging only 13 points a game. Now, granted, they probably can't score 13 points themselves. Oh, no. Well, actually, I take that back. This Iowa's offense is a lot better since McIntyre is back at quarterback for them. But meanwhile, for Ohio State, one of the top offenses in the nation, led by Will Howard. You have Quinshon Junkins, Travion Henderson, a couple good wide receivers. Like I said, they've been averaging almost 50 points a game. We shall see what happens. Probably going to be a blowout, but definitely an intriguing game to watch Saturday, or at least kind of flip back and forth. All right. Another one of the, now we kind of have a couple more of these Big Ten games that feels like a Rose Bowl game, and this definitely feels like one. Number 10 Michigan, 4-1 on the year, heading to Seattle to take on the 3-2 Washington Huskies. This Washington team, despite being 3-2, is really a solid team. Since Caleb DeBoer has left, Jed Fish, the former Arizona coach, now in Washington, this team is solid. Like I said, they just stubbed their toe in the Apple Cup against Washington State. Then they flew cross country on a Friday night and lost to Rutgers. Game they probably should have won, but I would, in a way, give them a mulligan since, they're still making that time zone adjustment and you have to play on a Friday instead of a Saturday. So I know it sounds like I'm making excuses for Washington, but, I just want to say this is a solid team, and Michigan's going to be in a battle. Will Rogers, the former Mississippi State quarterback, has already got 10 touchdowns and has not turned the ball over this season. Meanwhile, for the Wolverines, still trying to figure out this offense. Donovan Edwards has kind of been a disappointment as far as, his season really going to break out as a big-time running back. And Khalil Mullins have actually kind of taken that role at this point. But, they're still a solid team. Will Johnson, one of the best shutdown corners in the nation already with a couple of picks. I think he has a pick 6 already this year. So we'll see what happens. Washington is a favorite in this game, according to Vegas. So intriguing game, 7:30 Saturday night on NBC. A game that's on the Big Ten Network, 7:30. Number 11 USC heading to Minneapolis to take on the 2-3 Minnesota Golden Gophers. Minnesota, another team, despite their record, I think is better than what it indicates. They lost the Little Brown Jug game to Michigan last week at the Big House, 27-24. Meanwhile, for USC, trailed at home to Wisconsin, but end up pulling out the win 38-21. This kind of starts, this is kind of a tough 3-game stretch for you. 4-game stretch with USC. Going back to Michigan, I guess a couple of weeks ago, then Wisconsin, now Minnesota, and then next week they're back home to take on Penn State. We'll see what happens with Miller Moss, the quarterback for USC, and USC in general. Lincoln Riley, the head coach for the Trojans. I can't think of his name there for about 30 seconds, so that's why I paused. But anyways, we'll see what happens, the Trojans and the Gophers. And finally, we'll get you out of here. Number 9, Miami, heading to Berkeley to take on the California Golden Bears in an ACC game. This is where College Game Day is going. First ever trip to Berkeley for the Game Day crew. Wild game with Miami last Friday night at home at Hard Rock Stadium. Kind of the last two football games at Hard Rock Stadium are wild too, with the Titans and the Dolphins Monday night also, for different standards. But anyways, back to the college game. Cam Ward, I would say the best quarterback in the nation, or at least one of the top quarterbacks in the nation. Like I said, it's going to be a tough battle here. California, Fernando Mendoza, solid quarterback for the Golden Bears. I think this may be Cal's first ACC game, if I'm not mistaken. So, we'll see what happens as the Hurricanes and the Golden Bears meet. All right, that's going to wrap it up for Tailgate Thursday. Hope you enjoyed the college football action. We'll be back right here next Thursday at noon to preview week number 7 of the college football season. It's October. Football season really cranks into gear. Enjoy the football.